There we go. Okay, thanks for joining us tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and prospective students for the Lamplighter Guild 2016. And tonight we have Bob Garner with us. And Bob, I haven't got the chance to really know you that well, other than what John Fornoff has told me about you, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. But the things that I've read about you are pretty amazing. You've had quite a history already, and so looking forward to tonight and our conversation together.
Me too. Thank you, Mark. It's great to be with you.
So let's start. Let's start with. This is gonna be like fast moving tonight. I want to know what's been your greatest memory in your life.
Memory in my business life or personal?
No, anything. Just something that you just think like, boy, this is something that I cherish. What is the greatest thing you've cherished?
I can honestly tell you, although it might sound a little hokey, especially since I went in the film business, but when I was 10 years old, I went to see Ben-Hur with Charlton Heston, and everybody was all excited about the chariot races and all the action in there, and it was a tale of the Christ, basically, which it says on the screen, and we never saw Jesus's face, and it was so elegantly and respectfully handled through the crucifixion scene, and boy, that did it to me. I can't believe a movie, ironically, changed my life. That's when I gave my heart to Christ.
Wow. You saw the original film of that?
Not the original, Mark. That was in the 1930s. I'm not quite that old. Eli Wallach's version in the 60s.
So what got you into film, and tell us a little bit about your background with Disney, and how in the world did that happen?
Well, I was one of those. My life's almost been like Forrest Gump in a way. It's been really kind of crazy. But I played with a long story short. I was playing with a rock band, a garage band, which a lot of people do. And my brother, this was in North Carolina, where I grew up. He had us go down to Atlanta, big city down there. I'm from a little town in North Carolina, and cut a demo record. And I didn't even know what the heck we were doing. I played the drums and backup sang, and darned if the demo record became a hit. It was a flip side, and so we were flown out to Los Angeles. I'd never been out there before to be on a TV show and everything, and I was more fascinated with the production of how the television show was done than the music. I mean, I enjoyed what we did, and somehow I kind of felt that there was kind of a flash in the pan, although I did play on another record later, and the music business wouldn't be something I could depend on, and I just said, we was at CBS Television City in Los Angeles, the network, and I told the rest of the guys in the group, I said, I'm going to work in this building someday, and they all laughed, and sure enough, that's where I started my career with Carol Burnett and Red Skelton, in that very building of all the studios in LA. So
really,
I was crazy enough to go out there and give it a shot and get a summer job in the studios, and in 3 days I got a job at CBS, and all the people that laughed at me and called me crazy, I just had faith, and I just knew what I wanted to do and wasn't sure which aspect of the business I would really pursue the most, but I was very fortunate to get a production assistant's job starting out on network shows. I was like 22 or something. I just finished college.
So a lot of our listeners probably have never heard of Red Skelton. Maybe some of them have heard of Carol Burnett, but when I grew up, I watched Red Skelton every Sunday night. It was on right near Ed Sullivan, and I remember every time Red Skelton closed his show, he closed it with the same sentence. Do you remember what it was?
It was "Good night, God bless." That's what he said all the time.
God bless you. Yeah.
That's right.
What was it like working with him?
He would say.
What was it like?
It was really fascinating working with him because Red Skelton was a true clown. The red hair, cigar, the whole tragic life, the whole bit. Absolutely brilliant. He was a painter. He wrote songs under the name of Richard Van Bernard, like "Fly Me to the Moon," which you're probably familiar with, and the audience probably wouldn't be. But The guy was multi-talented, very emotionally interesting. And the only reason I got to kind of know him is because I was a production assistant and in and out of his dressing room. And I would actually do some of my homework in his dressing room. Same with Carol Burnett. I was very fortunate to be able to do that kind of thing. Even though it was on the bottom of the totem pole, it was, it was a really neat way to get in the business besides just being in a mailroom or something. Not that anything's wrong with that, but I was very fortunate because I actually got to know them and they would actually mentor me. And Carol Burnett actually helped me get my first writing break.
Oh. So we've come a long ways from God Bless You at the end of a television program to today. So what would you how would you guide young people today? Some have aspirations. They wanna make movies and they wanna infiltrate Hollywood. Some wanna
Right.
some wanna stay outside of Hollywood and make Christian films, and some want to go in Hollywood. How would you advise them today? What would you say?
I think um, if you can combine Hollywood quality with a message that's clean and uplifting and proactive for families, and I don't mean syrupy, sweet, and unbelievable, but good, solid, wholesome entertainment. Even like the Red Skelton Show was very wholesome entertainment in those days. I think if you can combine those two things, I think quality and a media savvy culture is very well appreciated, even if it's subliminally
Hmm.
appreciated. And I think that's I would advise them in to not get carried away. Remember the old statement, winning is not everything, it's the only thing, the Vince Lombardi thing. And sorry, nothing against him, but I totally disagree with that because Hollywood is an ego-driven business, basically, and it's all about winning and all about self. And I think, without sounding too philosophical here, I think if you get into the quality of the Hollywood business and keep your values and keep focused on the Lord, really, then you'll come out with, they're coming out with some great uh, media now, Christian media, that is very quality, and I'm really pleased to see that.
Okay, so you started at CBS, and from CBS, how did you end up at Disney?
A lot of the big variety shows were very expensive in those days, back in the late 60s, early 70s. $300,000 per show was a lot in those days, a whole lot, with the dance numbers, live orchestra. I mean, there was really show business, the set changes, and those shows were magnificent. But they started becoming too expensive. There were a lot of reasons, but a lot of them started going off the air. And so it seemed like every show that I was assigned to at CBS for a period got canceled. I'd start on a new show and it was canceled. And so I was out of work for a while, eating a lot of cereal and bananas, living in a little apartment up in the Hollywood Hills. And it started getting pretty tough, so I just looked for jobs as a production assistant on various shows or production coordinator, anything I could get. And then I went down, here's what happened. You never know how the Lord works. I went down to the Los Angeles Times, totally different kind of writing. I was interested in production too. That's why I don't think you should be too tunnel visioned and give yourself a chance and really let the Lord work through you. I went down and I met with the editor of Calendar, the entertainment section of the Los Angeles Times, and I just said, whatever happened to the original Mouseketeers? And I really wasn't affiliated with anything concerning Disney yet. And he said, I really, that'd be a great story. And I was just a kid still. And they gave me that story, and that got me over onto the Walt Disney Studios lot. And I got to know people, and I spent a lot of time interviewing Annette Funicello and all the original Mouseketeers. And then there was a new Mouse Club, and I got to know those kids and interview them. And the story came out, and then when a job opening, I was newly married at that time and kind of fumbling around different jobs. And when that article came out, I got an offer to interview for a writer-producer's job at the Walt Disney Company, and kind of a dream job. I think 275 people interviewed for it. And I was kind of thinking, oh gosh, good luck. I think Walt Disney's grandson even interviewed for it. Long story short, I got it, and it started
Wow.
out a 26-year affiliation with the Walt Disney Company, where I eventually became a producer. Never thought about being a director. Again, I didn't have tunnel vision, thank goodness. And Disney pushed me into directing what I'd written. Great, great career. A lot of new things. Epcot Center was in the works, and our first international park, Tokyo Disneyland. So it was just right time, right place. And boy, was my new wife happy.
So I'm hearing a pattern here, and it has a lot to do with writing. How did you so it seems like in order to become a director, in order to become a producer, you really needed to know how to write. How did you learn how to write?
It certainly helps. That was a ticket. It's not necessarily a prerequisite for becoming a producer. I learned it was producing, as you know, Mark, is kind of a way of casting. Like if it's a
Right.
documentary piece, you put different kind of people together to shoot that and edit it and production manage it than you would a drama or anything. In writing, I always wrote when I was in school and when high school, and kind of fiddled around with it. And then when I was at CBS and got a chance to write segment material for various shows and what's called on-air promotional material for MASH, I did some for that show. That was neat, being able to go out to that set in Malibu for MASH. It was a great show to work on, and it was I just kind of took it in steps, different kinds of writing, and wanted to learn to get better at it. And by the way, some of my stuff was by CBS programming in New York was tossed and rejected, and I was heartbroken. And Carol Burnett said, "Look, you're 23 years old. This is a network. Try again. You're good, but you're not that good yet." So I had to learn how to hear that's not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
and I did. Finally, I either would quit or keep going, and I kept going.
On the left-hand corner of your screen, something is we're starting to lose you a little bit. I can only see your head. I don't know if they could move the other way.
How about, I can't see myself, so how is
It
that
seems
good?
like there's like a piece of paper or something over the film screen, actually. Huh.
Is that your finger? Or?
Yeah, it looks like a finger. There you go.
Oh,
Good.
okay.
We're good.
That was the person with me. That was his fingers.
Okay. Well, we
Sorry.
got his fingerprints.
I'm back.
It was like you were
Back, I'm
slowly
back.
being enveloped there. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. What was the greatest? Okay, so Ben-Hur was the great influence in your life.
Yes.
What enabled you? Well, so you're at Disney and you're writing, and now I can imagine, working at Disney must be, a lot of pressure. There's probably a lot of deadlines, and you do something, you got to outdo the next one. Was the
Right.
pressure there? 26 years you were there, right?
Well, I've had a 26-year affiliation. I wasn't on staff that long, but I've
Okay.
freelance produced and directed, like not too long ago, the 50th anniversary for the Walt Disney Company
Okay,
and
so
Disneyland's 50th.
Disney 30 years ago is different than Disney today.
Right. Absolutely.
What made Disney so great then compared to today?
Well, I think they still do a lot of wonderful things, but I think there was kind of an intangible um, sense of quality and almost kind of a protectiveness of children and families that not that everybody agreed with everything Walt Disney did, but I think he was very sincere in his approach to things. Like there was no such thing as a theme park when Disneyland began. Nobody believed in it. You probably know that story. And but he just stuck to that idea of a place where families could enjoy a park like that together, that would be safe and friendly and clean and not like typical junky boardwalk parks that you see, in carnivals and things. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he really cared about not only quality but putting out safe material for children and adults together. A lot of the movies were for adults as well, as you know. I mean, not just for children. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs being the first animated full-length feature, nobody understood what Walt Disney and his team was trying to do in those days. Never been done before. He did a lot of things that had never been done before, but adults loved it as much as children.
We need that finger to go down again.
Adult.
There we go. Okay, good. So, okay, so students that are going to be coming here, Bob, to learn from you, they're interested in filmmaking. What are some of the things that, if you were to talk to students today, what would be some of the things that you would say would be the most important preparation for them to be able to be successful in filmmaking?
I mean, that's kind of a hard question to answer, but one thing for me, and I haven't gone into how I did more direct work for the kingdom, is to keep their head, and really let the Lord, not to sound trite, but really let the Lord direct their life, their creativity. Look at Proverbs a lot about wisdom. I mean, I'm going to share with them some of the stories about Herod the Great. He wasn't called Herod the Great for no reason, but that's a paradox. Herod's empires and palaces, and that was his Jerusalem in Jesus' day, excuse me, kind of represent the Hollywood, New York, and power. I mean, Herod was an Edomite, and he was in it for Herod. And now it's all ruins, and nobody even remembers anything about him. But Jesus is in millions of people's hearts. And that's such a paradox. And also Solomon, he had everything, the wisest man, the richest man, everything. And he ends up saying life is meaningless without the Lord. So I want to share some of that with them, so maybe they hopefully can keep a perspective. I kind of got off it for a while and had to come back to it. Keep a realistic perspective, but a perspective from a spiritual and faith-based. Keep a faith-based perspective no matter how successful they get, so they can keep that balance with their family, and their, with their wives eventually, or their children, or their whatever, and really see what's important and know whose they are as well as who they are. That's so important.
So let's roll up our sleeves and go to task here. So what caused you to go away, and then what caused you to come back? Tell us your story.
I didn't go. I didn't really go, I don't think, fully away, but I got kind of caught up, just being honest. I was working with Michael Jackson, and he hadn't gone off the deep end yet. He had come off Thriller and Beat It, and he was in good shape physically and everything. And I was directing him in a piece, and just all these big stars around, and Michael Eisner, is a mogul in the industry, and I'm sitting in these meetings and everything, and I just kind of got so carried away with it. And you mentioned a while ago the demands of a studio like Disney or a company, and I wasn't realizing how I was kind of being taken away with all of that. Not becoming arrogant or anything, but kind of like, wow, this is pretty cool. Look how far I've come. And I was making a lot of money, and we lived in a great neighborhood, and spending, getting home later and later at night with my family and two little boys who are now grown with their own children, my two sons. And I'm close to them now, but I was kind of moving away from that. And I was like, yeah, I was active in the church, but I really was losing my personal relationship with the Lord that, believe it or not, I had when I was younger. It started at 10 years old, because all the stuff came in, and the culture, trying to please the culture and other people, and the management at Disney. And boy, if they liked something I did, that was a home run, and that made my week. But I started feeling a hole inside, something missing, which a lot of the successful people and many, many stars that I work with and still do just seem to feel, because it's all about them, and it's all this stuff and awards. I've won probably every award you can imagine. I've been blessed with that. It was never enough. There was that hole, because my personal relationship with the Lord started fading, and I felt it. And when things started falling apart with my family, I got down on my knees and I realized that I needed to use my talents however the Lord wanted me to use them. And that's when I started producing a lot of things for Focus on the Family and Jim Dobson at that time.
So I remember seeing your name, and I was pretty blown away on You Are There. Is that correct? Well, not You Are There, on That the World May Know.
Right, and that really helped my faith. Not the trite statement of walking where Jesus walked, because quite frankly, most of those square inches aren't even really known, where the nativity was, or a lot of those things. But being in that country and seeing in the Valley of Elah really where David killed Goliath, there's round stones. I mean, just like the Bible describes, not that you need the proof, just incredible things. And being in a cave out in the Judean wilderness with soot on the wall from thousands of fires and sheep dung that's about 2 feet thick, and a basalt water trough is what a manger is. It wasn't a cute little warm wooden crèche. They didn't have any wood. They didn't have stables. It would have been in a cave, and we found one that could have been the nativity. Really don't know. But experiences like that just absolutely blew me away and brought me closer to the Lord, to see that the King of the universe was born in a dumpy place like that, literally in view of Herod the Great's Herodian palace. So it was literally, he was born in the shadow of Herod, and nobody even hardly remembers what the Herodian is or was.
Wow, that is amazing. You know, I was over there, and now that you say that, I didn't even put that together. That's amazing.
The paradox is that he was born in the shadow of a king as powerful as Herod. He's one of the greatest architects to ever lived.
So from Disney to Focus on the Family to That the World May Know, which I don't know if our viewers tonight have ever seen That the World May Know, but it is the best Bible documentary that I have ever seen. I don't even know if I would call it a documentary. It's really the Bible coming alive.
It is. And Ray Vonderland's excellent. Yeah.
Oh, Ray did an amazing job. He was on fire throughout all of those episodes. The quality, the qualities, it was outstanding. I couldn't believe that was, Christian. When I first saw it, Bob, I didn't recognize your name. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know your background. I didn't know anything about you. But all I knew was that when I saw this, I said, it's the first time I have ever seen Christians produce something that is equal or better than Hollywood. I mean, it was that good.
Oh, thank you. I hired a Disney artist to do all the artwork, just hundreds of pieces, an ex-Disney artist. And a lot of people, Mark, who worked on that program with me, and we all learned so much from it. It turned out to be 82 episodes that I directed. A lot of people were from Los Angeles and not Christians, and they became believers from working on that show. So I want students to remember that too. There's indirect ministry that goes on. And even in Turkey, some of the Turks would come up to me. They can't say Bob right. They say Bob. They say, Bob, are you not decaffeinated? And I said, what do you mean? I'm not drinking coffee. They said, no, you're not decaffeinated. You on fire for this Jesus, your whole crew. What is this about? Ooh. That was awesome. And that culture saying I wasn't decaffeinated, I'm taking it literal. They meant we were jazzed about what we were doing. And we did not have Bibles in front of their faces. We weren't forcing anything. We were just working. But Mark, they were watching us.
Wow.
In Turkey. We were all over Turkey, following a lot of places Paul went, and it was incredible.
Wow.
None of them were Christians.
What's that?
None of them were Christians who were from the Turkish film consulate in Istanbul, and of course out of Jerusalem, but they were just watching and learning, and they became interested in who Jesus is.
I'm more excited than ever because this is the first time we're ever having the Guild here in Mount Morris, Western New York. Wait till you see this place. We got this 1853 classic Gothic church, stained glass windows. It's just the aesthetics here are amazing. But we also are in the middle of this village that most probably don't know Christ as Savior. And there's an influx of just a variety of the class of people that are here. Bob, I think, and I'm going to be
Mm.
praying toward that as you guys are doing, got your cameras going, as you're mixing with the people of the community. I don't know. Maybe you're going to be going downtown taking shots. I could just see people wondering, like, who is this and why are you doing this? I'm going to be praying that God uses your crew here to lead people to Christ. Wouldn't that be amazing?
It's happened before. That would be amazing. That's why I was telling you what happened on the set.
Yeah.
Archaeological sites can be sets as well. I was blown away when I saw that. I never even thought about such a thing. And
Wow.
the artist who did the artwork showing how people looked like even 5,000 years ago in Gezer, for example, the standing stones. He had to research all that stuff, and he became a believer from doing the
Wow.
artwork on the show. I'm like, wow, you never know how the Lord's going to work. It's not many times the way we think. I know you know that, but I'd never thought about that before.
I really believe that's going to happen here, Bob. I think that what God's going to do with you here, it's beyond what we can imagine, and even at this point. So, what are some of the? I know we're going to be bringing some worldview ideas here. You and I talked about Ecclesiastes,
Yes,
and that there's two
yes.
worldviews: those who live under the sun, those who live under heaven. Um,
Hmm.
we were just reading it in devotions this morning that what a wasteful life for someone to gain all of this stuff. We were looking at chapter 4 and 5. This person gained everything, but he couldn't even enjoy it. And one of the
Right.
things that I'm learning is that the things that God has given us, He's given to us to enjoy. It's a gift. In fact, twice it says this. 3 times in Ecclesiastes it says it's a gift of God. And when a student becomes a master, I think that the truest master is someone who reaches the highest level of his talents, and he just loves what he does. He does what he
Mm.
loves. There's just a joy to it. When I see men
Right.
like you and John Fornoff, you should see John Fornoff in the studio. He just loves it. He's like
I
a little
have.
kid.
I filmed him in a studio behind the scenes, and the camera, we hardly could keep up with him. It was hilarious. It was great. Behind the scenes doing the hinty things, I filmed a documentary about all that, so it was great.
So,
It was really
what
neat.
do you think, as you're going to be here for this week? What are some of the things that the students can look forward to?
Well, I do want to show them. I don't want to show too much video, but I want to show their rather short program some of the things from that the world may know. I don't want to pump the Hollywood stuff too much, but I do want to show them an interview that I did with George Lucas at his home, because they all know who he is, and tell
Neat.
them a little bit of that story because that's about a relationship that came back 16 years later, and with George Lucas, and it showed. I want them to see the lighting and how that was set up and everything, not just because he's George Lucas, but I think it's something that they can relate to. But I want to talk about the relationship aspect of working with somebody like that, because he used to say it's not just who you know, it's how you know them. And
Mm.
that I want to share a little bit of that and what that means, things like that. So it's not about stars and dropping names and all of that. I do want to tell you, Mark, that I'm not, excuse me, I'm a little hoarse. I'm trying to talk louder so you can hear me. That I'm not going to mention his name, but there was a huge, huge star that had his own television show, rather young, a singer, and he was living up in Bel Air in Harry James and Betty Grable's old home, which again nobody knows who they are but you, but just this fabulous mansion, and it was 4 days before Christmas, and I went up there to do an interview with him, known him for years, and I went up to do this interview, and the house was dark, the tree wasn't decorated, everything was a mess. And I found out he was getting a divorce. His wife just asked for a divorce days before Christmas. He was sitting down in the basement with all of his gold records all over the wall, and I just couldn't figure out what was going on. Did the interview, and I was leaving, and I was getting ready to go back to my home, which was nothing like that, to my little baby boy and celebrate his first Christmas. And I looked around at him, and I said, "Merry Christmas," and he had tears in his eyes, and he said, "Bob, I'm going to have a lot merrier Christmas than you." He said, "I would do anything to trade places with you." This guy had everything. One of the biggest stars Hollywood's ever known. And it really hit me then that driving, kind of at that time to my house, and that new little baby boy, his first Christmas was just gold. I really realized that's what's important.
On a practical note, can the students be looking forward to? They're going to be doing some filming. They're going to put together a short film while they're here.
Yes, I need to talk to you more about that. But
Okay.
evidently, like Carrie said, that there's equipment there, and then I'll need your help trying to figure out what you're thinking. I've thought of some topics, and I want to do something where they can really have fun with it and learn and make a statement on their own.
Great. Oh, that'll be exciting, and we will talk about that and do some planning. I can picture the students, especially in this area. Wow, now not only are we right near the Grand Canyon of the East, but the aesthetics that we have here on the Lamplighter campus, this is an opportunity to do some filming that will really, I think, spark some interest and inspire. So, Bob, as we're getting
be fun.
As we're getting ready to close here, and I can't believe how fast this time has gone with us. If you could,
it's been an hour and a half.
if you could do something, if you could film one thing, put together a film, and it was your last film, writer, director, producer, what would it be? What would it look like?
Wow, boy, that's a loaded question to ask
Sure
on
is.
the spot. I'd have to think. Can I think about that and share it when I see you and when I come there? Or
you can, yeah, that would be great. Why don't you ask the question? Ask the same question to me.
Yeah. What would be your final? Oh, you mean when I see you?
No, right now.
What would be something you'd want to do as a final film project to produce?
This is going to be hard for me to say this, and I was not anticipating me even doing this at the end of this, and I don't even know why I did it, but I did it.
Well, neither was I.
This is going to be hard for me to share this, but I'll share it. I don't know if my oldest son knows the Lord personally yet. He might. He might. And I hope that he does. He had a profession of faith when he was younger, and just right now, I don't know if he's living for the Lord completely. He's very successful, and if I ever have a problem personally, I go to him. He's like my personal counselor. He's just an amazing young man. I love him dearly, but I want to know for sure that my kids are going to go to be with the Lord. There's nothing more important to me than all the world. And so I think if I had to produce a film, it would be a film about part of our family life and some of the huge mistakes I made as a dad and a husband. Because it would be so authentic. I raised sheep for a while, and I couldn't get my sheep to follow me. So I got a picture on this film, seeing me as a shepherd or whoever's doing the acting and having the sheep. The sheep wouldn't follow me, Bob. They ran from me. And my son ran from me. And at 12 years old, he told me he hated me. I was so domineering and so forceful, and I was always correcting him. And he didn't have any chance to really breathe. And at 14 years old, he ran away. And I remember begging God to protect him because I thought he was going to die that night because he was going to go and jump a railroad train.
14 years old. Yeah.
And I thought he's going to at least lose his legs or he's going to get killed. And so the next day he came back, but that night I prayed and I said, God, whatever you have to do to change me to reach my son's heart, do it. Even if you got to take my life. I had what appeared to be, my son came back the next morning and I was just thankful. I didn't say a word to him. But 2 weeks later, I had what appeared to be a stroke. I lost my ability to speak. I couldn't hold saliva in my mouth. I couldn't walk. And for the next 2 years, my little Jonathan, my 14-year-old Jonathan, he had to take me by the hand so I wouldn't fall over to be able to do the chores that we had to do on the property. And during that time, God started to heal our relationship. The lamb was now leading the shepherd. And because of my now dependence upon him, I could no longer control my family. I needed them. And God started to heal our relationships. And then one night, we had a lamb that wasn't, my sheep still wouldn't follow me, but there was a lamb that was dying. And my little girl, she had just seen, 6 months earlier, she had seen 22 lambs die because of my neglect. They died in freezing temperatures. They were born that evening. And 5 months later, there's a little lamb, and it's dying. And she said, "Daddy, save it. Daddy, do something." And so I had to take its snout and put it in my mouth, and I had to suck that snot out, and it lived. And she was like blown away that I did that. She ran up, "Mommy, Mommy, you won't believe what Daddy did." And 5 months earlier, she said, when she saw the dead lambs, she said, "Daddy, you're not a good shepherd." And now I saved the lamb, and and all of a sudden, Bob, I got up, and I walked to the other side of the barn, and all 70 of my sheep followed me for the very first time. And I learned something very important that time, that the mother lambs were watching me to see if I would do something unthinkable, if I was willing to get dirty for those lambs, take really care for those lambs. And when those mothers saw it, they followed me from that day forward for the next 5 years. They couldn't get them off my leg. They just followed me everywhere. And I think if I ever had to do a film,
it's amazing.
I would do a film like that, but for the purpose of, I want my son to see the ending, that when you really become dirty, when you're willing to do the unthinkable, others will follow. And that's what Jesus did for us. He did the unthinkable, and He was willing to. And so I would do a film that kind of centered on, it would start off with family life, but it would turn to Christ doing the unthinkable so that we would follow Him.
And using the sheep and I want to do that film. Okay, can I do it?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it. Wouldn't that be an amazing film?
Oh man, I could visualize that. I got chills up my neck there. That's amazing, Mark, and that would get such great visuals, intercutting with. I'm already designing it.
Well, Bob Garner, really God bless you. We're looking forward to having you with the Guild. This is going to be a special opportunity for students around the world to come and to be tutored by one of the greatest writer, directors, producers in the business, who loves the Lord, worked at Disney, CBS, worked with some of the greatest stars in the world. But Bob Garner, one thing that we're appreciative is that you work for the greatest star ever, and his name is Jesus, and that's what we're really excited about.
Absolutely, and we want to avoid vexation in the media too, because the enemy is the prince of the air, and boy, I want to talk about that too when I'm there. But thank you very much, Mark. I'm looking forward to it.
You're welcome. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we've had an opportunity to hear from one of the great men of God in the business and film business, Bob Garner. It's a pleasure, Bob, that we've had you with us. We're looking forward to you being with the Guild. The Guild is June 26th through July 1st. It'll be a week here. We've got Sarah Groves is going to be here, 8 Dove Award winner. Buddy Green got a standing ovation at the Carnegie Hall. He's going to be playing his harmonica. Jeff Taylor's going to be here. John Dorick, John Fornoff. We're going to have Kim Winey in photography. We're going to have Lisa Mystic in oil painting. We're going to have Patrick Powell in theater, stage acting. And that's just to name, just some of the all-star staff that's going to be here. And this is going to be a week like no other. Bob, our theme this week is going to be touching the divine from 2 Peter chapter 1 and from the Gospels, where the woman with the issue of blood touched Jesus' garment, and he said, "Who touched me?" The whole week is going to be focused on touching the hem of Jesus' garment, so that Jesus will ask at the end of the week, "Who touched me?" That's what we're looking for. We're looking for an amazing week where we touch the very heart of God, and so that He can ask the question, who touched me? And so with that,
Wow.
Bob Garner,
Terrific.
we say goodnight. Ladies and gentlemen, we say goodnight to you. Look at our website at lamplighterguild.com and learn more. If you're interested in attending the Guild, scholarships are available, and we hope to see you there. God bless you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
You're welcome.